Good evening, I am Ibrahim Sani and you are watching Market Talk. Welcome to Market Talk. McKinsey Company announced that it has acquired Malaysian digital firm VLT Labs. The announcement was made at the inaugural Digital and Analytics Forum in Kuala Lumpur. This acquisition sends a clear signal that McKinsey is truly embracing the digital revolution. VLT Labs has over 4 years of digital product engineering, specializing in helping corporations to build digital products. The acquisition is expected to further boost McKinsey's digital capacities and capabilities in Asia, where demand is indeed fast growing. Digital McKinsey has built, at a global and local level, an exemplary track record for business building and for driving large-scale digital transformation. So here to discuss this and more is the managing partner of McKinsey Malaysia, Nimal Manuel. Nimal, thanks for joining me. Let's talk about the acquisition of VLT Labs. What was the thought process behind acquiring this firm, and what is going to be expected out of this partnership in the short term?
So we acquired them just a couple of months back. The thought process is as follows, Ibrahim. We've got clients who are moving quite fast into digital. Their expectation is that we not just keep pace with them, but we are ahead of them. And their expectation is that McKinsey, who traditionally provides more of a strategic kind of support to clients, that we come in and help them end to end with helping them with digital transformations. To do that, we need people, we need capabilities. VLT Labs had a set of capabilities around design, around development that we really liked. We'd worked with them for about a year before that, got to know them, we liked them, we came to a mutual understanding, and that's how it came to be.
And of course, VLT Labs is just a portion of the VLT company at large. Is there a possibility of looking at partnership with the parent, the VLT family outright?
We've decided not to. We don't want to be all things to everyone. There's very specific focus and very specific value add we bring to clients. VLT Labs is complementary to that. The broad entity is very strong in what they do, but not so complementary to what we provide.
And does this mean that the offering of the digital McKinsey proposition through VLT Labs can be offered regionally as well, not just local businesses?
That's exactly the intent. The intent is not to have a hub in Malaysia just for Malaysia. The intent is to have a hub in Malaysia that serves ASEAN and potentially broader. So Malaysia is becoming our digital hub right now in ASEAN.
And with the larger news currently encircling us, including the digital free trade zone, including the multimedia corridor and many other digital initiatives, does this have a greater impact towards the larger era of businesses embracing digital technology?
I sure hope so. I think what is happening to a large extent catalyzed by MDEC is essential for Malaysia. We've seen many of our clients globally embracing technology, embracing digital. Malaysian clients will have to do that. Malaysian companies will have to do that. Otherwise, we will be left behind. And not just large corporations, also the mid-tiers. We have to.
And mid-tiers meaning the SME segment?
Well, you got the large enterprises, you got the SME segment. There's a segment in between we rarely talk about, what I call the mid-tier companies. Companies between 100 million ringgit in turnover to about $500 million. They drive about a third of our GDP. They're not SMEs.
Yeah.
SMEs below 50 million ringgit.
Yeah.
They're not large corporations.
Yeah.
They're in the middle. And these guys, they're about, I don't know, anywhere between 8,000 and 10,000 of these mid-tier companies in Malaysia. They're the, we call them the kind of heartbeat of our economy. They need to embrace as well.
Let's talk about the impact of digital and advanced analytics here in Malaysia and perhaps Southeast Asia as well. What has businesses, what can businesses look forward to in terms of embracing advanced analytics in this regard?
So, it's a great question. My sense is that many companies are approaching advanced analytics with too much of a technology mindset. One needs to take a business mindset to it and figure out, okay, advanced analytics is just another tool. What business outcome do I want? And then leveraging analytics to get to that business outcome. Now, businesses are increasingly looking to analytics as a way to achieve things like better commercial outcomes, being more relevant to consumers, reducing operational cost. So there's many applications of it. But the concern I have is that when people talk about analytics, there's a lot of jargon behind it. There's a lot of technology behind it. At the end of the day, it's hardcore business. And how can I use analytics to help me do what I do better?
I think that's always the case, right? Because people go deep into this rabbit hole and they use jargons and throw it around like unstructured data, big data, without really keeping a focus on what do they do with this kind of information.
That's exactly
Just
right.
try to push for revenue and better business coverage.
That's exactly right. So many companies are focusing on where can I find my data scientists, my data engineers. But at the end of the day, it's the frontliners, my call center representatives, the guys in my stores. They are the ones who are going to be using this analytics to do something differently. And so these people are important, but our existing people is so important that they are evangelized and understand how to use this.
Can we give some case examples, without naming names, just some sectors and industries that you have seen doing or applying analytics well?
So
It would be better if you can name names, though.
unfortunately, we can't. You know our confidentiality with our clients. We can't. So let me give 2 examples. And both in ASEAN, one in Malaysia, one in Indonesia. So a Malaysian example I'm really quite excited about is the application of analytics in terms of being much more relevant to consumers. So think about the average B2C company, telco, a bank. Anytime you've got millions and millions of rows of data about your customers, and you understand or you have the potential of understanding behaviorally how they interact with you, there's so much you can do to be much more relevant to them. I mean, we've all gotten the 10 SMSs a day, buy this, buy that, buy the other. How many of us actually read it? You look at it, you delete it. We are moving to a world now where through digital, you've got much more interactive channels with consumers, your app and what have you. How do you use that with much more information about you, Ibrahim, so that I know at 5 p.m. when you're on your way home and you've got a certain kind of behavioral propensity for certain kind of purchases, that I make an offer that's relevant to you. That's happening much more. And in a way that's not intrusive to customers, and in a way that's very respectful of confidentiality. So I see a couple of banks in Malaysia moving that way, 1 or 2 telcos, and that excites me.
Okay. We'll take a short break, but when we come back, we'll take a look into the concept of confidentiality and data security. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Market Talk. I'm Ibrahim Sani. Nimal Manuel, the managing partner of McKinsey Malaysia, joins me today. We're talking specifically about digitization of businesses. I want to keep on the track of data utilization and data management. Right now, what happened is last week there were 2 big data breaches, one involving a 43 million phone numbered accounts breach. Of course, CIMB also lost tapes of their customers. Both of them, in terms of these stories, they highlight a greater problem of data breaches and data security. On one hand, it's great when we utilize all these data to better understand the customers and present better offerings and packages to our customers and clients. But on the other hand, the risk of losing data and compromising data is heightened in this day and age. How do we reconcile between these 2 I guess, paradigms?
So I guess I would separate this discussion into 2 parts, Ibrahim. The first part is there's no getting around the fact that this data exists. I mean, there's been more data collected in the past 2 years than in the whole of humanity before that. This data exists. The wealth of data being collected is enormous, and it's going to attract predators, so to say. Now, however we choose to use that data, the data's there. And the data's there because for many companies it's essential to basic services they provide to consumers. So I wouldn't link greater use of data to these attacks. Data's there, the data's going to become more and more valuable. The question is how we protect it, regardless of how we use it. Now, come to how we protect it. Given the wealth of data and just the richness of data being collected about you and me, right? I mean, what different companies you piece together know about individuals is staggering. PDPA protects it. The reality is that cybersecurity, the importance of cybersecurity has gone to a whole different level. In McKinsey, we've got a full new practice now focused on cybersecurity. I am not an expert, I wouldn't pretend to be, but it's interesting how much of a topical area it's become for our clients. It used to be something which is, oh, by the way, let's do something about it. You know, someone in IT will take care of it. It's now top of mind for chief executives, as it should be.
Yes.
As it should be.
Then, of course, I can't see a downside in terms of businesses embracing digitization. But, of course, these are the considerations that business owners have to figure out. Data security, cybersecurity, and many other elements
They have to, because they have to embrace, otherwise they're left behind. But it's got to be done in a very responsible fashion.
Okay, and this is the part where it moves from legal and illegal to now ethics. How much can a company use the individual data to further their own business and commercial aspects?
And that's a good question. So PDPA provides legal and regulatory framework around that. Beyond that, how much one chooses to use. Again, there's how much we use within the bounds of the corporate structure, then how much is shared outside the corporate structure. It's quite interesting. Many companies, as they think about this, the reality is that consumers have become much more aware of this. And consumers are becoming much more aware of how companies are using their own data. And as such, companies, for example, that example I told you just now, I related just now around being more relevant to you in terms of office, you can't be too relevant because then there's a backlash from consumers. Wow, Big Brother knows exactly what I'm doing. So there's a natural limit in terms of what consumers will
divulge.
A, divulge, and B, tolerate. Tolerate, right? Then you get a backlash. That provides guardrails.
Okay. And of course, we want to talk a little bit more about the two companies that you mentioned just now. One was in Malaysia, another one in Indonesia. How have they?
So this is an interesting example because everyone thinks about, so to say, the sexy examples. But they're very traditional applications of analytics and digital, which excite me a lot. So think about a traditional industrial company. Could be an automotive manufacturer, could be a plastics manufacturer. There's a high degree of automation today in most manufacturing entities. A lot of cost put behind maintaining this equipment. And there's the highest cost, interestingly, is when machines go down in an unplanned fashion. It disrupts production. And so it's less the cost, but more the opportunity cost of lost value is huge. So how can analytics help you predict machines going down before they go down? Okay. So you can take action on it before they go down. We call this predictive maintenance, and it's got massive applications and massive potential. We've been doing a lot of this with clients around the region. I talked about Indonesia because that was one I was personally involved in. I mean, the impact potential is huge. People don't talk about that, but huge potential.
Germany and Japan have used predictive maintenance for quite some time. Why was the application or the adoption quite late in this part of the region? I would say macro factors, right? We embraced automation. We didn't have to as early as they did. Cost of labor is lower here. We're now getting to the point where for many manufacturing sectors, capital expenditures are going up. Cost of maintaining equipment is going up. We've gotten to the point where the economic necessity of this is now relevant. And again, it links back to my earlier point. It's got to be business or economics driven, not cool data. Let me see what I can do with it. I'm pretty sure you've had your fair share of companies trying to embrace it because they think it's cool. But let's move on a little bit towards the government sectors. Of course, management consulting companies, they are traditionally the advisors of the government bodies, respective ministries. Is the government currently embracing the necessary direction in terms of taking digitalization into how they do things?
So just one point of context, then let me answer your question. So we do a lot of work for government, but we do a lot of work for private sector as well. Just in terms of mix, it's probably 80% private sector, but 20% government in Malaysia. But within government, I mean, you've seen what MDEC is doing. And that's for the country and for private sector. So that's one push which I like a lot, which is government setting policy and regulatory frameworks so that society and businesses embrace digital. That's one part. Your question is government itself.
Yes.
Are they embracing digital? We see a lot of this going on, but in pockets. So there's a lot of applications. So one application which you and me may not like as much is, for example, taxes. In any country, there's some degree of leakage in terms of tax payments. Some. Being able to use analytics to predict where those pockets are happening, and being able to use digital then as a channel to reach these consumers, SMEs, companies in a way that's productive, it's a huge application. So like that, there's probably about 5 big pockets we see happening around the world, which we are quite excited about. Huge potential.
Okay, we'll take a short break, but when we come back, we'll discuss a little bit more about the company itself, McKinsey Co. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Market Talk with me, Ibrahim Sani. I have with me the managing partner of McKinsey Malaysia, Nimal Manuel. Nimal, McKinsey is celebrating 20 years of establishing a shop here in Malaysia. And the concept of management consulting has always been traditionally strategic advisors. You alluded to the fact just now that 80% of your clients are more in the private sector. I guess things have changed, not just for your clients, but for you yourself as a business of management consulting.
Yes.
Instead of being a strategic advisor, you now have to do operational solutions as well. Has the shift been dramatic, not just for you, but perhaps the management consulting industry as a whole?
So it's been stuck. So 20 years ago, 70% of our work was strategy. Fast forward 20 years, 70% has come down to 30%. 30% strategy, now 70% is implementation, organization, digital, analytics, you name it. So it's been stuck, and it's been a sea change for us as well internally. Because if you look at the McKinsey I joined, I'm an old man. I've been at McKinsey about 15 years. When I joined McKinsey, most of what I did was strategy. Most of my colleagues were doing strategy consulting. If I look at my colleagues now in the McKinsey Malaysia office, about 70% of them are of a profile which is very different from the profile when I joined.
And does this put you guys at a competitive edge? Because there are a lot of companies that do provide digitalization solution as their core business. They're not even into management consulting speak. They really just do rollouts. Would this be in competition with those kind of companies that have a better advantage in providing solutions for the clients that you're targeting?
So we are not a systems integrator.
Yeah.
We are not a technology company. We don't pretend to be. The reason we've done what we've done and kind of re-architected McKinsey is because as part of delivering a business solution, clients have demanded that we support them on the journey throughout. Not just a paper upfront, not just a strategy upfront, but help me implement it and get it done. So oftentimes we work with the technology companies and the solutions vendors you talked about, but our clients look to us to kind of manage, drive delivery, bringing in the right expertise. But to do that, we need ourselves to know and manage other people.
McKinsey Co has a brand equity, that is quite premium, resulting in the clients that you attract to be more of a high-end business. You were mentioning just now the mid-tier companies. Do they have the kind of financial firepower to actually hire companies like yourselves to consult them on their businesses?
They have an appetite to do so, but in a very different model. So an entrepreneur, when they seek out McKinsey and mid-tier company, the discussion, they see the value very quickly because the business value is very, very stark. They see the value very quickly, but there's less of an appetite to pay McKinsey fixed fees. There's a lot of appetite to share in the upside. So the discussion becomes, hey, McKinsey, put your money where your mouth is. And we are increasingly willing to do so.
And what is the expectations of McKinsey Co for 2018 going forward?
a starker shift that we've already seen begun. So the VLT Labs acqui-hire, I'd be very keen to see how we can strengthen further our digital team. I've got a real passion to build up our analytics footprint within Malaysia. And there's a lot of analytics boutiques in Malaysia, so I'd be very, very keen to seek partnerships with them. So basically, it's scaling up and becoming much more relevant locally.
When I was in the banking sector, particularly doing retail banking and understanding the demographics of our customers, the intent and the appetite was already there back in 2010, 2011. The problem is in terms of knowing the customers, how they move, data behavior, where they withdraw money, where they get their groceries. The thing is, it's been there for the past close to a decade now, but the realization of how they utilize these data is not coming through as fast as we would see, say, in the Silicon Valley area or in Germany or France even. Do you think that there will come a time when there's just going to be a pace where it's just going to be blistering, when companies in Malaysia can just, instead of talking about it, can actually use it and apply it right now as they want it?
I think it's now, Ibrahim. I think it's come. The number of discussions we are having with clients, Malaysia, Southeast Asia, on the topics of digital and analytics, staggering. It is a top 3 agenda item for most chief executives. It is coming. Companies have shifted how they're approaching it. Half a decade ago, there was much more of a technology focus, a technology-led approach to it. Many of my clients, many companies have now kind of flipped that and I said, okay, where's the business value? What tech do I need to enable that?
Nimal, thanks for joining me this evening. I've been speaking to Nimal Manuel, the managing partner of McKinsey Malaysia, and that wraps up this episode of Market Talk. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 5011. Download our app on the Google Play and the Apple App Store. And you can listen to this interview on your podcast. Simply search for Market Talk or Awani Markets, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Ibrahim Sani. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.